So it turns out that every time I'm faced with a severe, a serious, or traumatic situation, I devise or I come up with a coping mechanism. And it seems each situation comes or conjures up its own coping mechanism. So this means there's been many coping mechanisms. This situation I'm in at the moment, I keep feeling like finding humor in it all helps me to deal with it. So where I would normally do a lot of videos and photos and stuff like that, sharing the journey, I'm finding it weirdly difficult to do it at this or with this cancer situation, because I think a lot of people don't take kindly to anybody joking about cancer or creating humor out of cancer. But I'll tell you guys, when I was in that serious car accident 2017, and after 2 years of waiting for surgery, I had surgery which didn't go very well. So after that surgery, I ended up able to walk with aid. I actually couldn't walk like I did before. And I used to record videos sharing my journey, but I never actually showed the bottom bit of my body. I was always filming and recording myself from waist going up. So a lot of people on my social media platforms didn't even realize that I had this walking deficit. And even to date, most of the videos that I take are from waist going up, because that deficit or lack or whatever you want to call it is still existent. But back to this humor nonsense. After the surgery, and I think it was 2 years after the surgery, no, probably a year and a half after the surgery, because that's when COVID started. I found myself stuck being by myself, because I'd also been told that with the intensity or the depth or whatever the level of intensity involved in the surgery that I'd had on my knee, my body fighting diseases was not at its best. So when COVID came, I literally was told I needed to keep myself to myself, avoid crowds, avoid exposure, avoid any place or situation that would be risky. So I was stuck at home. But then that's when I came up with this humor nonsense. I started I'll just picture stupid things that I wanted to do. And these stupid things were coming up to my mind just because I couldn't do them. And those things that I knew I couldn't do were the things that were playing on my mind. So I decided I was going to fight until I could walk again so I could do these things. And I was going in the park like early mornings or night times, because then there wouldn't be anybody there. I would actually drive myself to the park and then do the walking with my crutches. And one day a guy said to me, "Oh, you've got such a well, this was a guy from my country, and he was saying this in my language. Um, and what he said to me, if I were to put it in English, amounted to him saying I had swagger. I had this kind of swagger in the way I was walking. And I shared this story with a charity that was supporting me at that time. I was getting video calls for support because I was on my own a lot. And we ended up, I ended up being invited to join a stand-up comedy sort of workshops or training. I don't know whether to call it training, which I did for months and months and months. And then when the lockdown stopped, we started meeting in Coventry. And I started doing stand-up comedy. And that guy who had said I had swagger, that had stuck in my mind. So, when you do stand-up comedy, you give yourself, or you get given a stage name, depending on what it is that you mainly focus on, what do you call it? I can't remember what it's called. But like a niche kind of, but in stand-up comedy. So I ended up choosing that swagger as part of my name. So I was called Swagger Mama. And I was doing stand-up comedy, and my comedy was literally based on my recovery journey following the accident. It was all focused on my struggles with walking. And many people actually found it quite funny. And interestingly, it was mostly white people that found it funny. And my fellow Zimbabweans, or shall I say Africans, were either embarrassed, mortified, or felt that I was mocking somebody out there. I don't know who. And that was bad. And that would bring bad luck to me. And it was like, oh, you are wishing yourself not to recover. People come up with all sorts. But anyway, I ended up doing stand-up comedy for, I think, that whole year. I remember if it was 2020 or 2021. I think it must have been 2020. Until I ended up with COVID. That then left me with a whole lot of confusion and memory issues and whatever, etc. So I had to stop. And now I'm going through this cancer thing. I keep having all these storylines of what I would do if I were to start stand-up comedy on my recovery journey with cancer. And yet, a part of me is like, no, don't do it. Because a lot of people will not like you doing that. Anyway, I might just do it for myself. As myself's audience. I'll be the performer and I'll be the audience, I guess. Because I'm not sure how people will take it. What do you think? Yes, you. Tell me what you think. Maybe it might help me decide.